a program in the public interest, bringing you the issues you need to hear about here in our community. Now here's your host, Mark Westwood.
And good afternoon to you. A special edition of Community Crossroads. Welcome. We are glad you're here on this Friday afternoon. It is cooking outside, I got to tell you. Hopefully, if you're in your car someplace, I advise everybody to please go and get yourself a bottle of water and take it with you. Don't go anywhere else without water, because if your car breaks down or something like that, it's a problem. Cooling centers, you can look those up at 211 and cooling centers, or Google cooling centers, and you will find someplace cool if you don't have a place that is cool. So I'm going to take just 1 second and make one slight technical adjustment. I'll be right back. And that's better now. Okay, I can hear myself now. There's nothing worse than when you can't hear yourself. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are having an active end of summer here. And if you haven't been watching the news, let me tell you, it's getting interesting. First place, a little place called Texas. And they're not too nice over in Texas. They decided that they would help rig the election for 2026. And here we are. They added 5 new congressional districts. They just did it yesterday. This was going on. This is a saga that's been going on for just a couple of days. What is that? Okay. You got a little music in the background. It's been going on for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, actually. And Democrats fleeing Texas so they don't have a quorum. Finally, once the legislature in California passed putting on what we're going to call Proposition 50 on the ballot, although there's one more vote to take, that will happen either today or maybe tomorrow, and then it will be officially a proposition. Proposition 50 is what it's being called. It has gone through a fast process. In 1 week's time, it went in front of the legislature, that got passed, and they sent it to what they call markup, which is where they determine what the financial stress on California would be, and the impact on California, and how much it would cost. And then from there, it goes back. And it had one initial vote, and now the final vote will take place. It may have already taken place today. I'm not sure. It is going to take place either today or tomorrow, and then it will be on the ballot. But ahead of time, not to be outdone, the Republicans, and in particular a billionaire named Charlie Munger, who is usually on the side of progressive stuff, but he's not on the side of this redistricting because he's holding true to the fact that we had a Proposition 11 redistricting commission, and the people should redistrict and not the legislature. And, my gosh, he's wrong on this one because we have to fight fire with fire. And if we allowed Texas to do that, they could throw the 2026 election, the control of the House. And so we have to fight fire with fire. And so Charlie Munger put out this flyer. And it has a lot of misnomers in it. I'll just say misnomers. That's a better way of saying lie, but it's misnomers. And I got to tell you, there was a pushback from Democrats at first on this because nobody wanted to get rid of the redistricting Prop 11 commission we voted on years ago. And it's working. And we want to keep that power of the lines with the people. And on the redistricting commission were 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, a couple independents, and that was working. When it doesn't work is when in the middle of a census, in the middle of a decade, when we should be just fine with our lines everywhere, the president calls up Governor Greg Abbott in Texas and says, give me 5 more seats, just like he called up Georgia and said, give me almost 19,000 votes so I can win in 2020. It's rigging, it's cheating, it's wrong, and a lot of people aren't happy with Trump and the MAGA Congress, and they want to take Congress back. Well, we can't do that if they rig it with more people in Texas and more congressional districts and more Republican congressional districts. Incidentally, the way they did this was to fully separate black and brown voters from their districts and from the people that were representing them and the people they had elected to them. And those representatives are going to be seriously challenged and in danger in Texas. All wrong, all wrong. So, we're fighting back with a little fire here. And Governor Gavin Newsom stood up, put this on the ballot. It's going to be on the ballot, rather. And what we've done is we're going to give it, and we're going to throw it to the people, not the legislature. The people are going to vote for it because Proposition 11 is, in the state constitution. So we have to take it to the ballot. But the people will decide whether or not this goes forward. And, of course, it's going to be a battle. President Trump has already said, I'm going to put $130 million down on it, and this Charlie Munger is going to match it from out of state. And right away, already yesterday in my ballot, in my mailbox, rather, I got this campaign flyer. 4-page, full color, full bleed, very fancy, very expensive flyer. Postage on this is probably about $1 a flyer. I mean, this is I'm not kidding you. 74 cents for a regular letter. It's easily going to be $1. And they probably sent out 1 million of these, and confusing voters, taking quotes from an old Sacramento Bee article way back when, before this was even planned, before this was even set forth and written out, this bill. And there was a lot of Democrats, a lot of Californians that said we want to keep Proposition 11. And so, like the people from the League of Women Voters who have not taken a stance on this, but they take a quote that says, California has become a natural model for independent redistricting. Let's protect the integrity of our democratic process and reject the dangerous idea of a mid-cycle redistricting. And that was the president of the League of Women Voters. And yes, she said that in July of last year. And I got to tell you, she was probably right. I would probably agree with her at that time. But what you need to know is this plan is only for 3 election cycles, 6 years, until, guess what? The next census is taken. And then Proposition 11 will come back in with the next census. This is just to fight fire with fire. There's all kinds of quotes in here from people, that they're out of context. And, they're doing what they call an independent anti-gerrymandering nonpartisan coalition. It's called the Vote First Act. That's what they're protecting. This is called, I believe, Protect Voters First, sponsored by Hold Politicians Accountable Ad Committee. And the top funder of that is Charles T. Munger. And by the way, there is really probably no citizens, no group doing this other than maybe some activist Republicans. And Charlie Munger is the one that's funding this with millions and millions of dollars. And it's wrong. It's just wrong in a lot of ways. You're going to hear a lot about this coming up. The election is only in November 4th. So let's figure this out. It's August 22nd or 23rd. Joe, is it the 22nd or the 23rd? Do you know? The 22nd. He holds up 2 fingers. Okay, it's the 22nd. And so you're going to hear a lot about it from me, too. I am in favor of temporarily suspending our Proposition 11 redistricting committee, fighting fire with fire. We're in the middle of the decade. We shouldn't be doing this at all. But if we have to do it, we have to do it. And also jumping on board probably will be the state of Illinois and the state of New York. This is going to be a battle back and forth. But this was caused by the President of the United States calling upon the governor of Texas, who was more than willing to do it for some reason or other, and saying, reapportion your districts so that you can give me 5 more congressional seats. And that's just wrong. President Trump caused this, and of course we have to do what we have to do. We'll be giving you more information on that very, very shortly, and as it comes up, you're going to be hearing a lot about it. So continuing on now, I'm going to take a short little break, Joe, just for 1 second. We're going to come back, we're going to regather, and we're going to introduce you to a guy who's running for the 23rd Congressional District, and he will be right with us very, very shortly. Paul for CA23.com. All right, back in a moment.
Has openings for 1-hour talk shows. If you want to host a radio show, now is the time. Make KCAA your flagship station. Our rates are affordable and our services are second to none. We broadcast to a population of 5 million people. Plus, we stream and podcast on all major online audio and video systems. If you've been thinking about broadcasting a weekly radio program on Real Radio plus the internet, contact our CEO at 281-599-9800. 281-599-9800. 1-800-599-9800. You can Skype your show from your home to our Redlands, California studio where our live producers and engineers are ready to work with you personally. A radio program on KCAA is the perfect work from home avocation in these stressful times. Just type kcaaradio.com into your browser to learn more about hosting a show on the best station in the nation, or call our CEO for details, 281-599-9800.
And now, the voices of KCAA with an exciting announcement.
Want to hear NBC News or KCAA anywhere you go? Well, now there's an app for that.
KCAA is celebrating 25 years and our silver anniversary with a brand new app.
The new KCAA app is now available on your smart device, cell phone, in your car, or any place.
Just search KCAA on Google Play or in the Apple Store.
One touch and you can listen on your car radio, Bluetooth device, Android Auto, or Apple CarPlay.
Catch the KCAA buzz in your earbuds or on the streets, celebrating 25 years of talk, news, and excellence with our new KCAA app.
Just do it and download it.
KCAA, celebrating 25 years. And good afternoon to you. Just a little bit past the quarter hour here in the 3 o'clock hour on a Friday. Mark Westwood with you on a special edition of Community Crossroads. And thank you for tuning in. We were just talking about the new redistricting and Prop 50. Now we're going to go on to the main part of why we're here today. We're going to get you introduced to another candidate running for office here in California. There's a lot of people stepping up. And in particular, this guy's name is Paul Chikolian. Did I spell that and pronounce that right? Chikolian? Chikolian. And my apologies. He's got a very complicated name. What nationality is Chikolian?
Yeah, it's an Armenian name, and it's pros and cons. But the pros are, if you spell it right when you search for me, you're definitely going to find me.
Or you could just Google Paul for CA23.com, which is very easy to remember. And it's F-O-R, right?
F-O-R, yeah. Paul, F-O-R-C-A, the number 2, the number 3.com.
You might want to go get that other name with the number 4 in it and redirect it to. Just my advice to you.
We have a few redirects, yeah.
Yeah, so congratulations on deciding to step up to the plate, Paul. Show the honesty, the integrity, and also the bravery of running in this particular market of politics these days. It's very tough.
Yeah, I agree. It is tough. It's tough from both sides, actually. It's tough from all sorts of special interest groups. It's tough from, obviously, of course, the Republican Party, and it's tough from some of the entrenched Democratic establishment as well. And so this is not something that I'm taking on lightly. And part of the reason that I raised my hand and volunteered to do this is because I have a pretty thick skin. And if somebody's going to stick their neck out and be willing to take the heat, I feel like it might as well be me.
Yes. So, of course, you can catch us on Kick on our website, kcaaradio.com, on the Live, on Odyssey, on Rumble, on a bunch of different video things. You can see us live, or you can listen to us. We produce a podcast for this later on. We'll have that for you, Paul. And, of course, you can find us on our app. Just type in KCAA. That's all you have to do, and download the app, and you can listen to us anytime, anywhere. And in particular, I mention this because if you want to see Paul, you can tune into one of those video sources. He's a good-looking guy from Yucca Valley, a dad of 2 kids, married to wife Hannah.
That's all correct. Yeah, absolutely. You get 100%, A+.
Yeah, there you go. And then, Paul, I met you at a town hall meeting with Congressman Pete Aguilar last weekend. I was impressed. We think and share a lot of the same views and thoughts. I'm always like that. I like to talk to candidates. I just talked to Josh Friday on Wednesday, candidate for lieutenant governor. And, if you can match up with a candidate like that, you like to interview them, you like to give them your support. And you decided to run for 23rd Congressional District. We're going to talk about all that. You are a proprietor.
I am a proprietor. I'm not a sole proprietor, however. There's a group of us. I'm the founder and the manager, but we have some investors and some working partners as well, and we all pitch in to make the business work. Yeah, Joshua Tree Distilling Company. We make craft alcoholic spirits.
Distillery. He makes craft alcohol. So his campaign fundraisers are going to be fun.
They have been. They are. They're very fun. I highly recommend you come to one.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to tell us about that soon, what's going on here. And we always like to talk to about issues and stuff and let our listeners know. It gives you a good sense. He is 32 years old, and seems like he's very up for the job. And we hope that we agree on the issues. So let's talk about some of the issues. First of all, you're elected to Congress. Then, and you get sworn in. I think when you get elected to Congress, you get sworn in December. And then the new Congress, comes in January. You get your congressional office. They show you where the restrooms are. You get the keys and all that kind of stuff. What would be the first issue you would like to tackle as a newly elected, newly minted California congressman?
Well, if I'm being honest, it's going to really depend on what's going on that December. It's going to depend on what the most salient and pressing issues are for my constituents and my community. It's also going to depend on what's going to be feasible in the near term, what bills are already being discussed, what bills are in committee, what committees am I assigned to. All that said, some of the top priorities for me are going to be campaign finance reform. I'm a strong believer that we need to get money out of politics, and I'll go a step further than to say just corporate money or PAC money. We need public financing for campaigns. As someone who has now been involved in this industry for the first time over the last 6 months, I've seen firsthand how much power and control the large donor class has, and as long as individual citizens can tip the scales and buy politicians, we're going to have problems.
But you know what? I think this is going to be an election like we've never seen. This is my prediction. I have no research, no data or anything about this, but it's just a feeling, a gut feeling, because I'm talking to people. I was on the air yesterday with two people that sing Christian music, and they're very much, evangelicals, and I don't think they're white nationalist Christians, but they, obviously were Trump supporters. And we started talking about the issue of immigration and ICE and the conduct and the behavior and what's going on. And they didn't support that 100%. They were against that. And then they started hearing about Trump and Epstein, and they were like, he came right out and, said child molester on the air. And, people are changing their mind about the top of the ticket, which is Donald Trump, which is, he's lost 8 points in his popularity poll in the last month. And there are Congress races all over the place where they're looking at these races and polling these races, and the Republicans are trailing by 10, 15% sometimes. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, said, I'm not running. She realized she's running for the hills is what she's running for. And we see some people. So I think people are fed up. And I just said this today to somebody. I said, because this is a local issue that I'm involved in Yucaipa, and got a call from a council member. And, I'm head of the YMRA, which is the Yucaipa Mobile Home Residents Association, represent about 6,000 people in 4,200 spaces in 41 mobile home parks. It's a big job. It's a volunteer job. And we just got through all of our audits and all of our, talking about rent control and all that, and got what we needed and everything. And we're taking this month off to relax. And now I can't relax because there's something about putting fire sprinklers in mobile homes, and it's going to be voted on Monday. And it's like being what they call fast tracked. Bull crap. Anyway, it is. They're putting it through fast so nobody catches it. And it would be detrimental to the mobile home parks. It would be detrimental to the mobile homeowners because of the infrastructure that need to be added and all that kind of stuff. Just ridiculous. And I just said to my friend, I says, I'm so tired of having to watch our government with a microscope, having to watch what they're doing, can't trust them, who came up with this idea, and how are they and why are they fast-tracking it like they're doing? And this is the way it is from the top on down. We're fighting, and you can't take a moment to relax. And I'm getting tired of turning on the TV, excuse me, I'm going to soapbox for a minute, and seeing that awful man, Trump, and that mug every single day. I go online, everywhere I go. I have got Trump fatigue. And I got to tell you, it's just, we're tired of it. And so then you've got to get in and campaign, and then you've got to get fundraising and all that stuff. And you're the little guy in the room. It's hard to get funding. It's hard to do fundraisers. And they're going to go with the most, toughest races. No, they're going to go with the easiest races to win, the one that they can cherry pick off the tree. But unfortunately, those aren't the most important races, especially when you're like me, and I live in the 23rd Congressional District. And he's nodding his head. Everything I'm saying, he's nodding his head, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. So, we got to get past that. As a young man from Yucca Valley, I think you have a lot of promise. I think you've got some good political consultants, and I think you've got a really good chance. By the way, he's a scientist. He worked for NOAA.
That's right. I actually studied extreme heat and the impacts of extreme heat on vulnerable populations. So I really appreciated that you started your show off with a reminder to stay cool. One of the insights, the pieces of original research that I contributed to the blob with my dissertation was that one of the, or if not the biggest predictor of the likelihood that someone's going to experience a heat illness event, so go to the hospital with heat stroke or that type of thing, is that they report it having felt too warm more frequently than other people. And so we really need to, one, trust our instincts when we're feeling hot. The other insight I have on that, I won't take too much time for your listeners. I know they're bored right now.
No, they're not bored at all.
Passive techniques like water or shade, they're help, but only marginally. The only statistically significant thing that reduced the likelihood that you'd have a heat illness event was air conditioning. So one, it's trust your instincts, take care of yourself, protect yourself. You're never too young or healthy to die from a heat-related event. And two, it's our policymakers need to actually start investing in our community to make sure that people have the ability to get relief from the heat. And far too often we have public health departments who are empowered to do messaging, who are empowered to remind people to stay cool, but they're not empowered to actually give them the ability to cool off. And that's a big part of the reason that I left academia and decided to get involved more directly in my community, both by having a business and now running for office, because science can only do so much if policymakers don't implement policies based on the science.
And that gives us a good barometer, pardon the pun, of Paul and the fact that he cares about people enough to talk about that and be so adamant about that and realize there is a problem there and we need to address that. And sometimes a member of Congress needs to be more, how can I say this, more concerned with the citizens they represent than getting reelected. And it's an endless fundraising cycle. I remember talking to a political, he's a congressman. He's in Congress right now. And good friends with him. And I said, we just finished his victory campaign party on election night. This was about 6 years ago. And I says, okay, what's up next? You going to relax tomorrow? He says, oh, no, I'm going to a fundraising party. And what we've done is we've turned our congressmen into, our Congress members, into nothing but fundraising tools.
They're full-time beggars.
Full-time beggars. We've got to stop that. That starts with, how do you think we're going to prevent that?
Public financing of campaigns. That's why it's my number one issue. I've met with sitting senators, sitting Congress people. They all complain about call time, and yet they're all empowered to make changes so they don't have to do it anymore. But they're addicted to the money. They're addicted to the validation. They're addicted to the special treatment. And so they suffer through, call time is what we call it in the industry when you're just calling donors, asking for money.
I was a finance chair for a congressional candidate once, so I know what call time is.
Yeah, and they all hate it, but they don't do anything to change it. And I think it's a top priority to protect and save our democracy, which is what Democrats say they care about.
My chief job was to sit there with the guy and say, okay, call this one, call this one, call this one. We had lists. And then he'd want to get up, and I'm tired. I said, no, you've only done an hour of call time today. You need 3 hours at least. No, and I'd strap him down to the chair practically. Call time was, But what this has been brought about, don't you agree, Citizens United?
Of course, that only added fuel to the fire. Citizens United, large
decision.
PACs, unlimited dark money being spent on campaign makes this all so much worse. But even without those large corporate donations and unmonitored PACs, the culture where candidates are spending more time asking individual donors for money than they are actually legislating, it's a huge problem.
Yeah, and for our listeners, could you explain a little bit about Citizens United and what that is?
It basically allowed for corporations to be treated as individuals and therefore be...
By the Supreme Court, by the way.
By the Supreme Court, before it was quote-unquote stacked. And what happened after Citizens United got adjudicated by the Supreme Court was that corporate entities treated as people were allowed to give unlimited sums of money to what are called super political action committees, super PACs. And
corporations are people too.
Exactly.
No, not wrong, but that's the way it is, yeah.
And so that's why you see billions of dollars being able to be spent on behalf of candidates. So a lot of times we conflate those things when we talk about it in the media and we talk about, how many hundreds of millions or billions are spent on a certain candidate. And more often than not, those are quote unquote independent expenditures. But in reality, everybody's talking to everybody and we all know that it's all coordinated.
Mm-hmm. And it is all coordinated. And it's almost like a competition. I don't know if you get this, but I get this a lot. Because, in various different organizations and they've got my name on the list. And as a regular voter, too, I've never missed an election. So it's always, you got to give $5, $10, $15, $20, whatever you can give. We've got this fundraising deadline. If we don't get it by 4 o'clock this afternoon, they make it sound like it's all over. And of course, it's not. It's just a push to get some more money in.
Wouldn't it be nice if we spent all that creative energy and effort and work with really smart people instead of figuring out how to trick people into donating more, figuring out how to actually solve our real problems?
It would be so nice. I would love it. And here's a suggestion I've had, but nobody's taken me up on this because everybody's so fearful to do it. They want to spend their money on four-color, full-bleed paper flyers that they stuff into mailboxes and waste in swimming pools full of chemicals and trees and everything else. I had a whole thing about one campaign mailer with 100,000 people is it's a forest, basically a forest. Takes a swimming pool full of water that gets dumped into the ocean. Swimming pool, not of water, a swimming pool full of chemicals that gets dumped into the ocean. It's terrible for the environment, and it's really not that effective. It really isn't. But what I would think would be effective is if a candidate like you, Paul, or somebody like Pete Aguilar decided, I'm going to take this money that we've collected, instead of buying ridiculous amounts of cable ads, we take the money and we promote the fact that we're going to go down to 4th and Sierra Way, and let me get rid of my phone. 4th and Sierra Way, and we're going to give food out to people who need it.
It'd be hugely more effective. So our campaign actually just sent an email out this morning, emails which don't use quite as much water and paper.
No.
And we are calling on Democratic voters to withhold donations to the DNC, the DSCC, and the DCCC until the Democratic Party changes the way they operate. And I know that's a bold statement to say as a newcomer
not gonna make
running
you
as a
friends.
Democratic candidate. My mom said, I loved your email. It was great. I'm sorry you won't be running very much longer. But after watching the way that this all works for the last 6 months, it's become clear to me than ever that we can't continue down this path where we spend $1.3 billion in 2024 from those three entities. We invested in maybe 20 races, seriously. We could have spent less than 2% of that total money and invested $100,000 into every single red congressional district in the country. And it doesn't matter if they lost those races. That $100,000 goes to train, organize, activate individual people. We need to invest in
I
people,
agree a lot
not
with
races.
you there. I don't agree with the fact that you don't give to the DNC. I don't agree with the fact that you're withholding money. Now,
Well,
you give
to
what
be
you can
clear,
give.
I think you should still donate. I think you should donate to individual campaigns in small towns and communities across the country who need the help, who are trying to fight for representation they deserve, because I do not trust the DNC, the DTRIP, and the DSCC
I'm a
to
DNC
spend their
member,
money
just so you know.
fairly.
Just so you know, I'm a DNC member. And the fact is, I trust the DNC. I think that they have a lot of ground to cover. And now, you might not like the DCCC, but
Do you
the DNC
disagree that it would be more helpful if they allocated that $1.3 billion more widely across the country?
It would be more helpful if they could get. You're right about part of that, but what they have to battle is the other side. The other side is the Trump people that have billionaires that just drop money, like Charles Munger I was talking about at the beginning of the hour, pledging $130 million to a campaign, and corporations are people too. So we have to offset that. But I think they need to realize, Paul, that money used to be called the mother's milk of the campaign. In other words, you couldn't get by without money. What I'm suggesting is a little different route, not cutting off the money, but saying we're going to redirect the money so that we do works of good charitable acts. We convert people. If you're walking out down the street and handing beer or pizza or food to people that need it, or helping them get shelter, and we spent even 1/3 of that, $1.1 billion, $1 billion is $999,999 million plus 99 cents plus 1 cent. That's a lot of money. And you think that's the amount of money they spent. Who's making that money? Consultants,
Ad agencies,
cable companies, TV. Unfortunately, not as much radio as you think. It's not.
We'll add that to the boycott mission. Invest in individual races and also radio ads.
So
are allowed.
we actually, at this radio station, and the owner of this radio station, started an independent expenditure company so that they could give to this radio station as a donation politically, and then they could buy ads, not just at this radio station, but other radio stations. Do you know where it went? Nowhere. So if you want to make stuff that goes nowhere, you go ahead and keep doing that. But like your mom said, it's been nice seeing you run.
Well, I just want to clarify.
Did you talk to Matt and Brad about that idea?
Yeah, they might have just found out this morning, but
you didn't.
But I want to clarify.
That's the way you're going to lose your consultants, too.
I think we agree. We're saying the same thing. I want these entities that I mentioned to spend their money in the same way
But
you
I'm
want
not
them
saying
to spend
I
it.
don't trust the DNC.
Well,
I'm not saying, cut off money to the state party or the county party.
How do you think we will convince them to spend the money the way you want them to spend it?
Why being an active voice and to gathering people to say that they do listen. They do listen. And then you go through the party. You go through the state. You go through the DNC. We have DNC representatives. You start talking that. You start pounding that. You start getting people to talk about it. You build from the bottom up. But to cut it off from the top, you realize you're going to hurt all kinds of candidates. You're going to hurt all kinds of races. And we can't afford to do that. If there's one thing we can't afford to do, Paul, right now, is gamble.
Well, I don't see it as a gamble. I see that the stakes are too high for us not to fix a broken system.
It's a gamble. It's a gamble to do that. We can repair a broken system without burning it down.
Well, I don't see it as burning it down. What I'm calling for is the $1.3 billion to be given to individual campaigns, not to not raise $1.3 billion.
Well, we're going to agree we're going to agree to disagree on this one. But let's move on.
Sure.
Okay, we could debate this and beat this to death there. I don't agree with you. There's not going to be many people that agree with you on this one. But notably, I agree with you that we should take some of that campaign money and do good works and do better things and influence people and work on registration instead of so much going to, media, NBC Universal and CBS Paramount and ABC and Disney and, see all these cable companies and all that. Just suck this money up. And then mostly, when by the way, people, you may not know this, but when you get an email and they say, can you give, $10 by midnight so that the end of the world doesn't happen? There's a company doing that. It's not the actual candidates. It's a company they hire to do that, and they get like 17 to 23% of all the money they collect. So that's why they're pushing so hard. We have to rebuild. We have to rekindle. We have to get people that are interested. And the way we're going to get people interested is to being out on the street corners, being on the streets, being more directly involved. That takes a lot of work, takes a lot of energy. But I think we agree on some of that. I just don't want to burn down the house.
I don't want to burn it down. I'm hoping that the threat causes them to fix their ways, and then we could start giving to them again.
Hoping and wishing, one hand or the other. But okay, let's move on to some other issues here. I like your stance on environment. And, you worked for NOAA, and you understand our environment is fragile.
I do. Yeah, I'm running a People First campaign, and that sounds like just a talking point, but it really means something to me. And that means that the whole reason to have a civilization, to have a government, is to improve people's lives. It's the same reason to protect our environment, to be good stewards, and to focus on sustainability. It's for people. A lot of times we hear thrown around that the environment is being harmed, or the planet is going to hurt, or we're hurting the planet. I can tell you something as a scientist. The planet's going to keep on being a planet, regardless of what we do on it, or if we live on it or not. The planet's going to be just fine. The reason that we care about the environment is because we care about people. We want them to have food to eat, clean air to drink, clean water to drink. And too often, especially lately, I've seen Democrats move too far to the left, passing environmental policies without the corresponding support to help bring everyone along into that sustainable transition. So for example, let's say you're in California's 23rd district in the mountains and you have a wood-burning stove. And California and Sacramento, they pass a law that says no more wood-burning stoves because it's bad for your lung health.
Which they haven't.
This is hypothetical. Hypothetical. It's the kind of thing I think many voters could imagine coming from Sacramento.
You have to be careful using examples because sometimes people hear that.
I appreciate the clarification. This is a hypothetical. In a hypothetical like this, if there's no actual help provided to people to upgrade to some other kind of heating system, then they could be stuck between a rock and a hard place. And so we have to be careful. I want to protect the environment. Climate change is absolutely real. It's going to cause trillions of dollars in damage. It'll be much cheaper, just from a business perspective, much cheaper to mitigate the emissions right now and start adapting in a just way. But we have to bring everyone along for that ride. We can't forget what it's like to be a regular working person just trying to get by, needing to use their gas to get to work, needing to use their gas appliances because that's what's installed, et cetera. Now, on the other side of the aisle, they have more than their fair share of responsibility. They're protecting large oil companies. They don't care about the environment at all. They're incredibly short-sighted. They don't care about what future generations are going to inherit. I'm not saying they're without blame. How much money they're going to make. They take most of the blame. But I have to talk on my side of the aisle where I have control. I can't control what the Republican Party is going to do. I can try and influence and control what we're going to do and how we're going to win back credibility from so many people that they don't vote at all. And so, so many of my colleagues are focused on how do I get the majority of the voters? I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on how do I get the majority of the citizens that live in my district.
What you need to do is get more voters than your other.
What I want to do
voted.
is get more citizens and turn them into voters.
Yeah, we the people, we the citizens. It is. I like what you're going. I like down the path you're going down on that. Let's go to another subject because we only have about 20 minutes, believe it or not. And I didn't even take the break at the bottom of the hour. So let's talk about equality.
Sure. It's in the Declaration of Independence. We've struggled to really meet our values there as a nation. But
it says we the people, not we the citizens, but we the people.
Sure.
In order to form a perfect union.
Absolutely. By citizens, I just mean my constituents, my neighbors.
Right. Everybody has rights.
Everybody has rights. Everybody deserves fair treatment under the law. Everybody deserves a voice. Mm-hmm. Everybody deserves to express their opinion. And everybody deserves a fair shot at a dignified, happy pursuit of happiness. And I think that sounds like a platitude, our right to pursue happiness. What does that really mean?
That's what we're based on. It's not a platitude. Life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness. I also would like to add equality and equity in there, too.
Absolutely.
And
I think that's a huge part of the justice component.
So first of all, I think the right to have religious liberty is important. That means that you can worship who you want. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm an agnostic. I think that absolutely all religions are welcome in this country. It's one of our founding principles. I don't think we should ever be persecuting anybody or treating anybody differently because of their religion. That's part of what makes this country so wonderful.
Agnostic means the fact that you might acknowledge there might be a God, but you're not sure there's a God, so you're waiting to find out.
Agnostic means I don't know any more than anybody else whether there's a God or not. I do not have faith insofar as I have not.
But you're not an atheist.
I'm not an atheist. I find that an equally ludicrous position. Honestly, a lot of my scientist friends are like, this is the evidence-based position. Well, you don't really have evidence one way or another. Mm-hmm. And so that's all my position is.
LGBTQ rights.
Pro-LGBTQ rights. My father is a proud gay man. I have lesbian cousins. I have queer friends. And it really doesn't matter if I didn't have any of those people in my family. It's just a basic tenet of humanity to be compassionate and empathetic and treat people with kindness and justice.
I think I heard you were at a Pride Festival in Arrowhead before you came to the town hall meeting the other day.
I was. Yeah, I was there with my dad.
I've got good ears. You don't hear that, but I do. You were there with your dad, supporting your dad. How wonderful.
He was actually supporting me. He was probably the straightest looking man at the event, but it was nice to spend the day with him.
That's funny. Your dad's gay, but he's straighter looking than you. I don't know if that means anything. I don't know, but okay. Well, that's good to hear. The fact that you do support LGBT rights and for people to marry who they love. Do you support them having children?
Of course, I have 2 kids. They're the absolute best part of my life. One's 6 months old. The older one's 2 years old. I don't want to do anything but spend time with them. They're really the absolute best thing I've ever had in my life.
Now let's talk about the immigration and ICE, baby. Let's talk about what's going on. Give me your dissertation on what you feel and what you think should happen.
Yeah, I think our country is really confused. I think we've really twisted ourselves up into knots after decades of a lack of
confused
leadership.
By propaganda, too.
Yeah, the propaganda, absolutely. The propaganda and the lack of bold, confident leadership from both parties.
I had a guy, I'm just going to share this story with you. I was on the air with him, and he says, yeah, Obama deported more people than Trump, which is true, sort of, but not by the margins he's talking about. He said Obama deported 5.8 million people. I'm like, where did you get that number from? I don't know, but I heard it, I think, online. I'm like, that's so much of what happens is we get so many people with so much wrong information. I don't know how we battle that, but,
Well, that's the double-edged sword of the First Amendment, right? And we have to be more sincere and strategic in our messaging back and pushing back with the truth. And I think when it comes to ICE specifically, having any sort of police officer, authority of any kind masked and not identifying themselves, unacceptable in a democracy, completely unacceptable.
And I even think that these are regular full-time cops that work in communities. That's why they have masks on. And they are some of them out on disability that are working off their disability and doing this, which is the job essentially they're on disability from. So that's why they have it. I also believe that these cops are working sideline money, that breaks their employment contracts. They could lose their benefits and everything. And that's why they have the masks on. I see these guys, they're too trained in their tactics. And unfortunately, it's a real sad commentary on our law enforcement in the United States.
Yeah, we have a lot of problems, and the leadership starts from the top, and the problems start from the top. The thing I'm singularly most concerned about, and I think all of us should be terrified of, Republican, Independent, Democrat, is how large the budget is for immigration enforcement now with the big, beautiful bill, quote unquote, passing. Their budget is going to be larger than most other countries' military budgets entirely. I read that it's maybe larger than our Marine branch budget.
It is larger than Marines.
Which is just shocking and terrifying in a country that was founded to stop and defeat tyranny.
And here's my you follow the money, follow the cycle, follow the flow. It's just like a flow chart. It goes, to ICE. It goes to these private prisons. It goes from the private prisons to these off-duty cops and trickles down that way to some citizens they've hired now called the RSO. It's not just ICE, it's RSO. And then all these people love Donald Trump, and guess what they do? They give some money back to Donald Trump.
And there's many easy ways to do that, from crypto to publicly traded stocks. I mean, and who do you think
How do you feel about crypto?
I had an Ethereum miner in grad school. It was great, actually. Hopefully ASU doesn't come back for taxes, but I had it all working at my lab office, so I got free electricity. And then I took all that ether that I mined, I sold it, and I bought a piece of real estate in Joshua Tree. So I turned one of the most intangible assets into the most, we call it real estate. So I played with it. I'm kind of a nerd sometimes, but it's not something I speculate in or trade. Those are my thoughts.
Through cryptocurrency. So you're not against cryptocurrency?
I'm against using it as sovereign currency like they're doing in El Salvador. I think that we live in a free country, and if you want to play around with computer algorithms, go for it. If you want to invent fake money and other people are going to buy it, let them.
Tariffs, real quick. And we have so much to talk about. Tariffs. And what the president's doing is illegal. It's unconstitutional. And what I believe he's doing is he's dipping the market, which to folks is, he says the tariffs are going to be on tomorrow. And then right before he announces that he's going to suspend the tariffs, the market plunges. And then his billionaire friends like Charles Schwab gets in and makes, $800 million in one day. Get in, get that money, grab it, take it out of the market, put it in their offshore bank accounts or now into crypto, and it doesn't come back in the United States, it doesn't come back into our economy.
Whether or not it's what he's doing intentionally, it's certainly the effect that it's having. It's you could pretty much take the bet and win most of the time that when Trump does something crazy and the market drops, if you buy and wait 2 weeks, you'll make your money back. I mean, this cycle is repeated over and over and over.
But
now,
401ks and stuff aren't making their money back as fast, and that's a problem.
It's a huge problem. And I mean, tariffs, I own a small business, a manufacturing business. I've experienced firsthand the increased costs. Who do you think is going to pay those increased costs? Everybody in the community, everybody in the country that has to buy our products for $1 or $2 more.
Another fabulous misquote and propaganda put out there is we have $800 billion in an account since Trump, the tariffs, and we're ready.
That's our money. That's my money. I've given thousands of dollars into that account.
Amen. Hey. Okay, I'm singing like the chorus now. I know that, but it's true. And I love the fact that you got so passionate about that. It's our money, folks. And then they're going to give it back to you. They're going to give you $1,360 back, maybe, if you paid your taxes and you can do all this stuff. And then, what they're trying to do is buy votes. But if you just paid out $5,000 or $6,000 this year in tariffs and increased costs of money, and it hasn't gone up yet, but it will. It will very shortly. Wait till you get to the gas tank and 70 cents a gallon is added on to the price of your gas because Canada just got tariffed with 30% or 31%. Ridiculous. So I think we agree on that one too. We're going to have our own radio show.
Happy to do it. We can do a podcast. Everyone's got one.
No podcast. I'm a broadcaster.
As I mentioned to you, Mark, I also did a radio station in college. I love radio. I think it's a great democratizing tool. I love that everyone's hearing the same thing at the same time. It helps build that fabric of culture and society that's been missing for so long. We need things that bring us together, shared experiences, and so that we can remember we're all neighbors on the same journey.
Singing it again. Amen. And that's the truth. And how we got in this state in the first place is we didn't pay attention, and we let Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and Joe Rogan and all these people. This is why Kamala, who I know and have met and talked to on many occasions, lost. She only got 110 days, and none of that should have happened. And I think that the propaganda media did an assassination on President Biden. But I got to tell you right now, we cannot believe what you hear on the networks right now. Paramount is in the middle of a mega merger. They just paid Trump $16 million just so him go away so they could do their merger, which is worth $800 billion. NBC Universal, same deal. Paid a little less, but then ABC paid him too. He's attacking our media. PBS, NBC, Voice of America, Voice of Europe.
Look what happened with Stephen Colbert. It's obvious self-censorship.
Yeah.
And has no place in this nation.
Fascism. So this is why we come back to what I started at the beginning of the top of the hour here with, Proposition 50. That's what we do. Let's talk in our last 10 minutes or so, 9 minutes or so. A big problem here, you can see it on the streets, homelessness and affordable housing.
Again, I mean, I'm running a People First campaign. How could I say that and not care about the people who are our neighbors, our community members who are on hard times and are getting no support? In fact, they're getting ridicule and disdain when these are the people who should be getting the most generous, the most sympathy, the most help and compassion. And instead, we give them the worst of ourselves. We give them the worst that we have to offer. And it's emblematic of the complete absence of compassion and empathy in our government. Again, on both sides of the aisle, that has been allowed to continue and persist for decades. And we have to get back to a place in this country where our leaders have genuine compassion and empathy for the people that they live amongst.
And one of the things that I see a common theme is that you say both sides of the aisle, both people are, I got to tell you, and I will tell you this, that Democrats are more concerned and want to do better and more for people and citizens and people first over party. Republicans don't seem to have that compassion or care. And, one of the things, here's a concept I want to talk to you about. We're talking about homelessness now. We had a lot of homeless around this area. Up until about 3 months ago, Joe in the control room can tell you, we had people camping right out here over the other side of the wall. There were homeless everywhere, and they swept them through, and unfortunately, where they put them is in a Potter's Field cemetery where they're sleeping on grave sites right now. But they cleaned up the parks. But the problem is they didn't cure the problem. But I talked to a few guys, and I said, why, there's jobs everywhere. You seem like a smart guy. Why don't you go get a job? He says, well, if I get a job, the government's going to take all my money because I had 3 children with 3 different women, and, they're on welfare, and so the government takes all my money. And so if I wind up in the same spot as being homeless by working my ass off, 50 hours a day, I'm just not going to work. How do we solve that problem? What's your idea?
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about really is the 2 fundamental tenets of my campaign: people first and common sense. And it's like I said about the environment, it's the same here. We need to be commonsensical. We need to dig in and actually fix these problems. Of course, when there are people who have no facilities, no resources, perhaps they have mental illnesses or addictions, and they're being disruptive, causing damage potentially to other people's properties,
and that goes
we have to manage that.
Paranoia, drug addiction, all that stuff goes with being homeless.
Of course.
If you weren't that way when you become homeless, you will be.
In short order, absolutely.
And, part of what we're talking about is identifying the problems correctly.
Absolutely, and then really actually addressing them, and that takes nuance, that takes a willingness to get creative, that takes a willingness to do trial and error, but we have to approach it with compassion at the top.
Circling back, I'm going to bring you an idea why the Democratic Party is better than the Republican Party. We have tried for years and years and years, and I know congressmen who have put it forth, and from Congressman Joe Baca to Congressman Pete Aguilar to Congressman Norma Torres, that have wanted to put a bill through and tried to get a bill through and propose bills to create a path to citizenship, to help people who here illegally become citizens. They provide the economy, they do contribute, they're not all criminals, a lot of them are great people. Why not? And we've done this in the past, and my grandparents were immigrants, My grandfather was born in Ukraine. I'm only a 3rd generation citizen.
My grandmother was born outside Kiev.
Yeah, and so but we created a sustainable way for people to become citizens. And then all of a sudden, over the past couple, 2-3 decades, since Ronald Reagan gave 6.5 million people amnesty, the Republican Party didn't like that, and so they cracked down, and they absolutely refused to even consider a citizenship bill.
Let me just say 2 things. One, just to make clear, of course the Democratic Party is better than the Republican Party. I'm running as a Democrat, not as a Republican.
Say that again?
Of course the Democratic Party has better values, wants to do better things than the Republican Party. I feel that absolutely. That's why I'm so passionate about getting the Democratic Party to a place where it can win again.
You thought this was going to be an easy interview, but where you got energy working off this. When you say it's both sides' fault, sometimes it's not both sides' fault.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Let's talk about
most of the time.
Let's first of all, I'm a person who operates in the real world. And I don't mean that offensively, but there's nuance in the real world. And too often in politics and media, we want things to be binary. And so when I say both sides, it might be 80% Republicans, 20% Democrats, but it's still both sides. Now, the second thing I want to say is let's talk about immigration reform. Let's talk about when Obama was trying to pass it. You can say one portrayal of those events is that the Republican Party was racist and difficult and power hungry and made it impossible to give people a path to citizenship.
But
when
thank
that's
you
what
for saying it. I don't need to
That's
say it
when the
now.
majority of the country wanted, and that's what Democratic lawmakers wanted.
I don't need to say it. You said it. Okay, thank
Another way to talk about that exact same set of historical events is Democrats were too unable or unwilling to make the tough decisions, to do the tough things that the Republicans do to advance their agendas.
Mm-hmm.
The types of things we're now finally, after decades, willing to do, like fighting fire with the redistricting.
So Democrats were fighting to get elected. They're fighting to fundraise against huge fundraising machines from like the Koch brothers, Charlie Munger, people like, Mr. Facebook himself, Mark Zuckerberg. We saw the display of millionaires and billionaires behind Trump at the inauguration. So they're so concentrated, and this is why part of the problem is what we agree on is political reform, campaign financing, all the 9 yards. But the fact is that we're so busy trying to do that and fight that and run, and so much energy is to that certain things can't take place. But I can't blame all of our, Pete Aguilar, he multitasks pretty darn well.
I don't blame any individual Democratic lawmaker or voter or delegate for these problems. My frustration is that, okay, we didn't get it done then, we couldn't push it through then, but when is the time where we take a step back and we be self-reflective and we say, if we ever want to have a chance at doing things the right way, we need to fix campaign. We never take the opportunity to come back and fix the structural problems. We all know they exist. We talk about them all the time, but we're so focused on the next election, the next cycle, the next win, the carrot, always right on the horizon, that we're not willing to do the kind of actual long-term planning and investment in lowercase d democracy that we need to do to actually have a democracy again.
Absolutely. Paul, I think the P in Paul stands for passion. I like this guy. It's Paul for CAA23.com. I think we're winding down. Old Joe over there in the control room, he's just kind of kicked back there. How many minutes do we have? 3 minutes. That's all we have, 3 minutes. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to convince the people to vote for you.
Oh, wow. That's a tall order. Well, I'm running because our current congressman doesn't deserve to have the job. Whether he's a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, or an alien, he's not doing anything to actually help our community. He's not doing anything to help even his friends, even his Republican constituents.
Jay Obernolte. Yep.
Jay Obernolte. He focuses entirely on his interests, his desires. Multimillionaire. I don't think it's quite
not quite million, but he's getting close.
He does fly his own private jet, like twin-engine jet, not a Cessna, around over one of the poorest districts in the state and in the country. He couldn't be more out of touch. A great example of this is the committee that he serves on in Congress that he likes to talk about. It's the Cybersecurity Committee. In his newsletters, he's always talking about AI, tech, software. Find me one big tech center in California's 23rd district. Find me one large group of employers in that industry.
Good point.
The reason he's on that committee is because it's his personal interest. He's a selfish person, self-interested, who does not care at all about what his actual community, what his actual constituents are dealing with. He's ridden on his coattails. He has name ID. He came up through Sacramento. He came up through the county. He came up in Big Bear. His Republican colleagues like him, but I know a lot of Republicans in California's 23rd district that are no longer his friend. These are individuals who flew on his jet, who had dinner at his house, and they say he's changed. All he is a Trump acolyte right now. He's not representing us. He doesn't deserve to have the job. And so I'd be more than happy for anyone else qualified to run against him and hopefully win. But right now, I think I'm the best candidate to actually do it. Somebody needs to beat him, and I want to actually deliver for our community, and I don't think I can win this district without reforming the Democratic Party. I think those two things have to happen together, and it's the only way to win California 23, and it's the only way to win back the country.
There you have it. You just met Paul Chakalian.
Pretty close. Chakalian.
I did it.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
I like this guy. We're going to have more interviews with you. Is that all right?
Sign me up.
Sign you up. Okay. Paul, thank you for joining us today. This is Mark Westwood on Community Crossroads, KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, the stations that leave no listener behind. Take it away.
Thank you for listening to Crossroads. This program has been designed to present you with the issues that face our area. Your host has been Mark Westwood.